Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing in Michigan, and these are your latest news headlines from around the world. Some Republican members of the United States Congress are calling for the downsizing of the federal government in response to a perceived targeting of socially conservative groups by federal law enforcement agencies, including the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI. The calls have been made at the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, currently being held in National Harbor in the state of Maryland. Recently, it emerged that the FBI had issued an internal memo suggesting that the agency should monitor traditionalist Catholics through, quote, the development of sources with access within such groups. The FBI say the leaked memo has since been withdrawn. Meanwhile, there have also been claims that pro-life groups are being unjustly targeted by the FBI and Department of Justice. All these claims are now being investigated by the Judiciary Committees of both the US House of Representatives and the US Senate. A UN-backed human rights monitor says Nicaragua's population has been kept, quote, hostage by crimes against humanity since 2018. The monitor, known as the Group of Human Rights Experts in Nicaragua, also say such acts have been committed by pro-government groups and sanctioned at the highest levels of government, up to and including President Daniel Ortega. The group's first report will now be presented to the United Nations Human Rights Council. Among other things, it calls upon the international community to impose sanctions on those responsible for any human rights breaches in Nicaragua. Meanwhile, the Catholic charity Aid to the Church in Need has expressed its concern over the plight of the church in the Latin American nation. They are also calling for prayers for Bishop Rolando Alvarez of the Diocese of Matagalpa, who was recently sentenced to 26 years in prison. The pro-life campaign group 40 Days for Life is demanding a congressional investigation into Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers in the US for alleged profiteering from the sale of abortion pills. The co-founder and chief executive of 40 Days for Life, Sean Carney, has now sent a letter to the chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability to request that it begins an investigation into whether abortion providers are profiting from the selling of the RU486 abortion pill. The pill is used to abort human life in the womb within 70 days of conception. Mr. Carney notes that such drug-induced abortions now account for more than half of all abortions in the US, and says that the public deserves to know if organisations such as Planned Parenthood are unjustly profiting from the sale of such drugs. Pope Francis has conveyed his prayers and condolences upon the death of Bishop David O'Connell of Los Angeles. The 69-year-old prelate, who hailed originally from Ireland, was shot dead on February the 18th at his home in Hacienda Heights. His funeral takes place today. May he rest in peace. In a telegram sent on behalf of the Pope by the Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, to Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles, the Holy Father says he is mourning the death of a much-loved bishop who was known for being close to the people, and he also praised his witness as a priest. The husband of Bishop O'Connell's housekeeper has since been charged with the bishop's murder. Church leaders in Jerusalem are renewing their appeal for peace in the Holy Land. Since the start of the year, 63 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli troops and 13 Israelis have died as a result of attacks carried out by Palestinian militants. Now, the patriarchs and heads of the churches in Jerusalem have issued a new statement calling for a de-escalation and long-term resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict under international resolution and legitimacy. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has also decried the escalating violence in the Holy Land. Speaking during his Sunday Angelus, the Holy Father appealed for dialogue so that Palestinians and Israelis may find the road to fraternity and peace with the help of the international community. Thousands of people in Mexico have taken to the streets of the nation's capital to support draft laws aimed at curtailing the influence of the so-called transgender lobby. The legislation is being proposed in the state of Puebla by politician Monica Rodriguez de la Vecchia and in Mexico City by America Rangel. Both proposals aim to outlaw hormonal and surgical interventions for children who, it is claimed, are confused about their gender. The protesters gathered outside Mexico's federal legislature, the Congress of the Union. The march also demanded that the right of parents to choose their child's education be respected by the state. The African Catholic activist group Citizen Go has criticised Twitter and other social media platforms for censoring its content. In an online petition, which has now been signed by over 135,000 people, the organisation asks the Twitter CEO Elon Musk to stop censoring pro-life and pro-family opinions once and for all. The group say that they were suspended by Twitter after posting content which was, quote, drawing attention to dangerous attempts of the most radical branch of the LGBT lobby to normalise paedophilia. A new study in the United States has found that homeschooling saw a 30% increase in the school year 2021-22. According to the report by the non-profit research organisation Urban Institute, the number of students enrolled in private schools also rose by 4.3% between 2019 and 2021. Meanwhile, public school enrolment fell by 1.2 million across the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. The analysis made use of the annual enrolment figures for K-12 private schools from 33 states and the District of Columbia. The largest increase in private school enrolment it found came in Massachusetts, Florida, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington state. States with the largest increase in homeschooling were New York, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Meanwhile, Republicans in Congress have also introduced a bill aimed at giving parents more control over their children's education. Bill H.R. 5, also known as the Parents' Bill of Rights Act, would amend the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 to force schools to post their curricula online. And will also give parents a list of the books and reading materials in the school library. The proposed legislation upholds parents' rights to speak to school boards and learn about violent incidents that are occurring in their child's school. All sides in the abortion debate in the United States are awaiting the outcome of a lawsuit in Texas that seeks to withdraw chemical abortion pills from the US market amid safety fears. The lawsuit is presently before a federal judge in the state of Texas. The case arose after the Federal Drug Administration decided to widen access to the two-part medication regimen, which permits doctors to write prescriptions for abortion pills via telehealth sessions so that pregnant mothers can get the abortion-inducing tablets by mail. The Texas lawsuit asserts that mifepristone, the first of the two medications used to induce abortion, is not as safe as claimed and that the FDA should not have granted approval for it in 2000. Many states are pursuing laws that would either ban the sale of the abortion-inducing pill or stop mothers from accessing them without first visiting a doctor in person. A missionary priest has escaped unharmed after being kidnapped by a criminal gang in Haiti. 33-year-old Father Antonie Christian Noah from Cameroon was kidnapped on his way to his missionary community in Kazel, which is located approximately 34 kilometres north of the capital city Port-au-Prince, on February the 7th. Father Antoine was held in captivity for 10 days in an abandoned house in the outskirts of Port-au-Prince. He's now in the Dominican Republic, where it is said he is convalescing after his ordeal. Thanks be to God, he was freed. That's all for now. Do join us for more at swnews.org for news updates if you require them. Until the next bulletin, Shalom.